Millionaire's amazing revelation. Housekeeper saves his elderly mother, cancels wedding to fiancé. Alex Thompson stared at the shimmering skyline of Chicago from his penthouse, the city lights twinkling like scattered diamonds. He was a self-made millionaire, swathed in wealth, yet feeling painfully vacant. The upcoming wedding to his high society fiancée, Jessica, loomed like an extravagant circus, one that demanded not just money, but perfection. Guests would expect nothing less than a fairy tale, an exhibition of his success, but deep down, Alex felt the weight of unrealistic expectations pressing down on him. The opulent ceremony was supposed to signify what he had achieved, yet it masked an ever-growing tension. Just that morning, he received the diagnosis about his mother, Margaret. Dementia. At 58, his mother was the last bastion of unconditional love in his life, the one woman who raised him alone after his father walked out. The news sent ripples of fear through Alex. He felt paralyzed, suffocated by the impending reality that he could lose her. All the wealth in the world could not buy her back. In the rush of wedding preparations, as floral arrangements were finalized and gowns were fitted, he became increasingly isolated. No one understood. Jessica was more concerned about the designer cake than the emotional turmoil he faced. Perfecting the event eclipsed the chaos brewing inside him. Meanwhile, Rosa, their devoted housekeeper, silently stood as the anchor through this storm. Decades of loyalty and care glimmered in her eyes, while Alex struggled to comprehend the depth of her sacrifices. She bathed, fed, and read to his mother, her compassion reminding Alex of the lost warmth in his own heart. But the dissonance between his world and his emotional landscape grew louder. One evening, during a family dinner, a distant relative awkwardly announced Margaret's condition. Uninvited scrutiny filled the room like a thick fog. Alex's face burned with humiliation, every judgment piercing him. Jessica's scoff stung like venom. She dismissed the notion that their wedding plans should change. "It's just a party, Alex. Focus on what really matters." He felt walls closing in around him. The clash of values became unbearable. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each ticking second screamed at him. The wedding, the wealth, the facade. Was this really it? Here he was, in a gilded cage, while his mother, the woman who taught him love through sacrifice, needed him. The internal conflict raged like a tempest. As tension crested, he confronted Jessica, desperation edging into his voice. She rolled her eyes, familiar with his bouts of emotion. "Look around you, Alex. This is a moment that'll define us." In that moment, reality crashed into Alex's perfect world. He had spent his life collecting trophies, but at what cost? The necessity to choose between a frigid future with Jessica or the tender memories of his mother loomed large. The breathtaking cityscape outside blurred with his racing thoughts. Torn between two worlds, he stood teetering on the precipice of a decision that would redefine not just his heart, but his entire legacy. Alex stood at the edge of his vast penthouse, unyielding and confused. The cacophony of wedding plans clashed violently with his emotional turmoil, leaving him suffocated, questioning everything he believed represented his success. The skyscrapers outside, symbols of his climb, no longer inspired pride. They stood like sentinels to his growing discontent. He could almost hear the structures whispering, challenging the choices he was making. Determined to make sense of it all, Alex sought comfort in the familiar. He admitted to himself that it was time for a change, one that bubbled with uncertainty and potential. Rosa, the housekeeper, had quietly been the voice of reason amid the chaos. He recalled her laughter illuminating the dimmer edges of his childhood, and how her encouraging words had seen him through early failures in business. Yet he had always dismissed the true depth of her wisdom. Sitting in the elegant living room, adorned with gaudy wedding decorations he now found repulsive, he flipped through his phone, searching for distractions. A news article caught his eye. caring for aging parents, a new perspective on responsibility. Lines blurred and faded as he read, grappling with definitions of duty and self. While glossy photographs of guests in tuxedos danced through his mind, another view emerged: a family meal, laughter shared over simple dishes, genuine moments untainted by superficiality. What he realized was staggering: he had become a prisoner of his own creation. For years, he had chased material accolades: an expansive home, luxury cars, and all the right friends. Yet he felt no joy in it. His reality wasn't an achievement. It was a masquerade, one that no longer felt like his own. He leaned back, realizing that the thought of losing his mother had chipped away at the facade, layer by layer, revealing an aching desire for authenticity. The newly realized turmoil boiled within him, forcing an idea onto the surface. What if he cancelled the wedding? The fear of reprisal bubbled beneath his thoughts. Would the loss of Jessica shatter his social standing? Would he fail to live up to the expectations set within the circle of elite society? But more importantly, what would it mean to fight for the love and dignity that his mother deserved in her twilight years? The next day dawned, dimly reminding him of the promise he once held to make a difference in the lives of those he cared about. This moment could redefine everything, yet how to approach Jessica weighed heavily on him. Their relationship had become a tangled knot of vision and expectations, her delicate frills entwined with his innate desire for connection and compassion. He could visualize the aftermath of the conversation, tempers flaring and accusations launched. But a quiet voice within insisted that honesty was worth the fallout. He needed to determine how to intertwine his future with a path that didn't renounce who he truly was. He approached this challenge not merely as a means of self-preservation but as a chance to embody the love he felt for his mother. The road ahead required untangling the threads of luxury from the fabric of his life. With each passing hour, the weight of the decision loomed larger. Would he finally put the well-being of his mother above societal expectations? He was on the cusp of a crucial step towards re-evaluating his life goals. Today, he would face Jessica. Today, all that he had built would be tested. As he steeled himself for confrontation, a thought reverberated in his mind: if he was to redefine his legacy, the time had come to face the unimaginable. Alex paced the marble floors of his penthouse, the echo of his footsteps reverberating in his chest, each step heavier than the last. The silence was deafening, an ominous backdrop for the confrontation he had to face. This moment felt like standing on the precipice of a cliff, where one miscalculated leap could lead to freedom or failure. It was time to extract the wedding plans from the realm of expectation and reinsert them into the reality of his life. He glanced at his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows, searching for the man he once knew, a man driven by passion, not merely ambition. But that man had been obscured by layers of societal demands. The stark contrast between who he was and who he had become triggered a sharp pang of regret. Did he truly want to tear down the veneer he had built to prove himself? Symmetry in his existence had felt so important until now, but he realized that the glimmer of a flawless image was nothing without substance. As the clouds began to part outside, letting soft rays of sunlight filter in, he made a mental list of points he wanted to convey to Jessica. Clarity fueled his determination. He needed to explain his emotional struggle and the profound implications of his choices, not just for himself, but for his future as well. Just as he formulated a plan, his phone buzzed on the sleek coffee table, a distraction he almost resented. It was Caleb, a friend from his high society circle, eager to discuss the wedding details. The timing was cruelly auspicious. Alex briefly hesitated, then pressed ignore with a firm swipe. This was not the time to entertain superficiality. Minutes felt like hours, and dread began to curl around his resolve like a vine, preparing to choke it out. What if Jessica didn't see things his way? What if confronting the truth shattered the delicate balance they maintained? He envisioned their last argument a tempest fueled by hurtful words and misunderstandings. He couldn't afford to be that person again. The stakes had evolved from mere social ramifications to visceral emotional consequences. Taking a deep breath, he picked up a photo of his mother, taken during one of her better days. She wore a genuine smile, a stark contrast to the furrowed brow of worry he had seen of late. He realized he had to fight for her, to reclaim not only his life but the essence of familial love that had been sacrificed in pursuit of grandeur. In that moment, clarity transformed into a mantra that he repeated in whispers: authenticity over appearances. The furniture around him, expensive yet empty, served as an ironic backdrop to his internal battle. He recalled the smile of the housekeeper he had discounted for far too long. Rosa's sage advice echoed in his ears. If he channeled the same courage she embodied, he could dismantle the false world he had built. Alex made his way to the foyer, each step resolute, as he approached Jessica's apartment. He would take responsibility for his choices, present them with honesty, and pray that she could understand the necessity in his decision. This confrontation was no longer about his need for freedom, but about redefining a meaningful life that honored his mother. In that defining moment, just as he raised his hand to knock, a sense of calm washed over him. Authenticity was the victory he desired. However, before his knuckles could make contact, he froze, a thought halting him midair. What if Jessica had her own revelation? He steadied himself, realizing this encounter might reveal secrets buried beneath facades they both had upheld. The moment was no longer his alone, and whatever lay ahead could change everything again. Would this be the last time they stood at a crossroads, or merely the beginning of a deepened connection based on truth? One thing was certain: they were both on the precipice of an undeniable transformation. Alex hesitated, hands suspended just shy of the door. He could feel the tension thrumming through him, an electrified line connecting his nervous energy to the potential consequences that lay beyond. What if this moment revealed not just his truth, but hers as well? He inhaled deeply, drawing in the kind of courage that felt foreign yet necessary. With deliberate slowness, he knocked lightly. His heart raced, anticipation merging with trepidation. Seconds dragged on before Jessica opened the door. Her expression was an intricate tapestry, surprise threaded with concern, but wrapped enough in warmth to anchor him amidst the storm clouding his mind. "Alex," she said, her voice a hesitant blend of curiosity and caution. He forced a smile, though it felt more like a grimace against the reality of their situation. "Can we talk?" Jessica stepped aside, allowing him entry into the modestly decorated apartment. The contrast with his penthouse was stark and grounding. Here, there were no gaudy displays of wealth. Instead, there were tokens of shared memories: a bookshelf filled with novels they'd read together, photographs of quieter moments that felt miles away now. Once the door clicked shut behind him, Alex felt the weight of expectation steal the air from the room. An invisible wall of uncertainty filled the space between them. He could sense the wall she had built, armor against accusations and vulnerability. Instinctively, he knew he had crafted his own to shield himself from the unmanageable burden of his choices. Alex began, but words failed him momentarily. How could he articulate the magnitude of what he was feeling? The fear of losing everything he had meticulously constructed battled with the craving for honesty. "Is everything all right?" Jessica interjected, shifting slightly as if she needed that small act of dance to relieve some tension. "You look don't," he interrupted, urgency sharpening his tone. "Please, just let me speak." The intensity of his request hung in the air. Jessica nodded, eyes narrowing slightly, acknowledging his plea but also bracing for what he was about to reveal. "I know we've talked about our future, the wedding, but I need you to understand where I'm at." He swallowed hard, grappling with his thoughts. "Lately, I've been reflecting on what it all means for me, not just in terms of our relationship, but in how I'm living my life, what I want for my mom, what I want for myself." "Is this about your mother?" A flicker of understanding crossed her face, but he noticed the skepticism lurking in her eyes. "Not just her, Jessica. It's more than that. This wedding, this life we're planning together, it feels more like a mask I'm wearing to cover my fears than the genuine future I want. I've realized I need to prioritize what truly matters." Each word dropped like stones into a still pond, rippling outward into the fabric of their shared reality. She crossed her arms, her body language shifting from apprehension to offense. "So you're saying you don't want this? What about us? If we're to make this work, we can't base it on pretense. I don't want that for us. I can't go through with the wedding if I'm not authentically ready." I can't do this if I'm just trying to please the world around me. He could see her fighting against the rising tide of emotions. Her resolve might have been wavering, but the question remained. Was Alex prepared to accept whatever her truth might be? Did he have the emotional resilience to face an unanticipated revelation that could further complicate their lives? The silence stretched taut, thick with tension. They were both teetering on the edge of something monumental, yet the unknown loomed larger than before. Just as he thought her silence spoke volumes, she opened her mouth, revealing a truth that carried the power to shatter everything once more. Alex, I've been meaning to tell you something important. What came next could unravel the very fabric of their relationship, revealing hidden depths, unforeseen choices, and confronting them with the shadows of their past. One thing was clear, the confrontation had only just begun. Alex, I've been meaning to tell you something important. Her voice trembled, each word feeling heavy in the air between them, punctuated by the stillness that hung like a dense fog. What is it? He asked, his heartbeat accelerating, anticipation mingling with dread. This moment felt pivotal, a fulcrum that could tilt the balance of everything he thought he knew about their lives. Jessica drew in a sharp breath, her eyes glistening, and for an instant, Alex glimpsed the person he had fallen in love with, not the facade crafted by both their fears. I've been struggling too, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. The wedding, the plans, it terrifies me. I feel trapped by expectations our families, society's, and I don't know if I can uphold them anymore. His chest tightened at her admission, a mixture of empathy and urgency coursing through him. Here it was, the shared uncertainty he had been yearning to address, yet the implications hung like a sword above them. Jessica, he said, leaning forward, we can navigate this together. But we have to be upfront. We can't let silence dictate our choices. She nodded, brow furrowing as if wrestling with a profound inner dilemma. I didn't want to disappoint you. I can't shake the feeling that I'd rather dive into the deep end, but I've been considering postponing the wedding. Just until we both figure out our paths. Her revelation struck a chord in him, resonating with the revelations he had experienced himself. Perhaps this was the moment to confront not only their shared fears but also to challenge the very foundations of who he was beyond labels like fiancé, son, or successful businessman. He took a moment to process, pulling from the depths of his self-reflection. What if we didn't just postpone but redefined what this means for us? Maybe we could take this time to explore who we are individually. What if we focus less on the wedding and more on healing our personal struggles? My mother, your dreams? For the first time, there was a glimmer of hope in Jessica's eyes, yet it was tinged with the bittersweet residue of uncertainty. But what if healing means realizing that we may not belong together? The silence returned, creeping around them, thick and apprehensive. Alex grappled with that possibility, heart racing as he weighed the risk of losing her entirely against the prospect of surface-level contentment. In that moment, clarity struck hard. He couldn't embrace a future rooted in anything less than authentic desires. Then we take that risk, he said, his voice stronger, more resolute than he felt. I care too deeply about you to trap you in an illusion of happiness. I'd rather lose the wedding than lose you. The air crackled, charged with shared vulnerability. His willingness to confront his own heartbreak mirrored her emerging strength. As they exchanged glances, a fresh understanding sparked between them, one that could either liberate or prickle tension in equal measure. Yet beneath that understanding lurked the undeniable truth that the ultimate confrontation, the one which would redefine their lives, was still on the horizon. Holding on to a ghost of what once was could ultimately doom what could be if only they dared to embrace the unknown. Let us make a plan, Jessica suggested tentatively. We can take it one step at a time. Figure out who we are, what we want, without the pressure of this wedding looming over us. Agreed, he replied, feeling buoyed by a sense of purpose. But even as they tentatively plotted a course away from tradition, something in Alex stirred, nagging at him. A question still hung unaddressed. Have you thought about what it means for us if we take this step? The implications of their choices hung like a promise or a threat. As they pondered the depths of their shifting relationship, something about that lingering hesitation warned him, the real challenge was only just beginning. Would the effort of their intentions be enough to thwart the specters of their past, or would they find themselves entwined in a deeper mess than they could ever anticipate? As soon as they left the cafe, a searing unease settled in Alex's chest. The sunlight bathed the street in a warm glow, but he felt engulfed by shadows and uncanny dissonance between the vibrancy of the outside world and the turmoil within him. He and Jessica had just made a decision, but clarity remained elusive, shrouded in uncertainty. He found himself walking towards the park, where the sound of children laughing and birds chirping ironically underscored his own disquiet. These mundane moments felt stolen, as if everyone else was living life unencumbered while he wrestled with truth and consequence. Why had it taken this long to confront their realities? Alex sat on a bench, trying to ground himself. Stripped of the wedding preparations, the bustling plans, what remained was an unsettling silence echoing in his mind, a silence filled with questions he had long ignored. Who was he now? Who did he want to be? He pulled out his phone, scrolling through reminders etched with wedding deadlines and family obligations. Each reminder felt like a noose tightening around his throat, suffocating the individuality he had almost lost. But then, amid the clutter of appointments, one item stood out: call Mom. He had neglected it for weeks, buried in his own affairs while his mother's health declined. The guilt sliced through him. He had been so consumed with projecting the perfect life that he had overlooked the woman who shaped his very foundation. With quickened resolve, he dialed his mother's number, the tone of the ringing against his ear resonating with his swirling thoughts. Had he waited too long to ask for her counsel? Alex? Her voice, though frail, held a steadiness that comforted him. Hey, Mom. I wanted to check in. How have you been feeling? His voice cracked, but he pressed on, craving an authenticity he hadn't expressed in a long time. Oh, you know, same old. Just trying to stay positive, she replied lightly, but the tremor beneath her words betrayed her struggle. Mom, I've been thinking a lot lately. About life, and I think I need your advice. There was vulnerability in his admission, an acknowledgement of having relied on superficial success instead of genuine connection. What's on your mind, sweetheart? He hesitated, recognizing how fragile their relationship had become, overwhelmed by his career and a wedding that seemed to slip from his grasp. I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing with Jessica, our wedding. I just want to make sure I don't make a choice I'll regret. Dear, she breathed, sometimes what you need isn't always what's expected of you. You have to live for yourself. Ask yourself, who do you really want to be, Alex? Her words pierced through the haze of his uncertainty. What was expected of him clenched tightly around his heart, while the desire for authenticity bubbled beneath a chasm between obligation and the deeper question of his true self. If Jessica and he were to explore themselves, he had to embark on this journey as well, unearthing the joy and pain hidden in the depths of their shared past. I want to define my own happiness, Alex finally admitted, a resolve igniting within him. I want to learn who I am, away from everything else. A silence enveloped the line, heavy yet liberating. Then it's time you start making choices that resonate with your spirit, not just your duties, she urged gently. After parting from his mother, Alex sat in contemplation, knowing that if he wanted to redefine his life, it meant diving headfirst into the unknown, both personally and within his relationship with Jessica. Yet there was no finality in this realization. The road ahead loomed with uncertainty, questions of belonging and identity swirling like gusts of wind in a coming storm. Yet, amidst the chaos brewed a tentative hope, a desire to carve out a new narrative. Would he find the strength to confront the ghosts of the past that held him captive, or would he linger on the brink of confronting his true self? With every tick of the clock, a decision loomed closer. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange hue across the park, Alex felt the urgency of time reverberating through him. Before he could spiral further into a cycle of self-doubt, he stood up, resolved to embrace the uncertainty of the future. He had taken the first step. Now he needed to confront the precipice that awaited. Tomorrow, the conversation with Jessica would not merely be about postponing a wedding but about unveiling the truth beneath their fears. The time had come to face what lay buried in the spaces between them, and who they each might truly become. The next morning dawned with the weight of possibility hanging palpably in the air. Alex stepped into his kitchen, the sunlight spilling through the window, illuminating the quiet chaos of his thoughts. The coffee brewed, filling the room with a familiar scent that ordinarily soothed him. Today, it felt like a bittersweet reminder of his habitual life, now precariously teetering on the edge of transformation. He wanted to look forward but couldn't shake the clenching anxiety twisting in his gut. The conversation with Jessica loomed larger than life, a monumental confrontation that would either solidify his path forward or shatter the remnants of what his life had once been. Staring into his steaming cup, he took a moment to reflect. What had once been enthusiasm about merging lives had warped into a cautionary tale. Why had he felt the need to slip into the role of the perfect fiancé when it felt more like wearing a mask? The rigid expectations of tradition clashed violently with the authenticity he now craved. He decided to revisit the park where clarity had eluded him yesterday. If only he could sort through the cacophony of feelings swirling inside: fear, longing, uncertainty. As he walked along the tree-lined path, he mentally rehearsed ways to express his thoughts to Jessica. But it felt inadequate when weighed against the magnitude of his inner conflict. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from Jessica, an innocuous invitation for breakfast at her apartment, but it felt like a signal, an omen of the inevitable confrontation. Suddenly, micro-expressions on other people's faces seemed amplified. Couples strolled hand in hand, laughter erupted from nearby picnics, and a child lost in joy on a swing. These scenes mocked his turmoil, highlighting the specter of his previously unexamined life. As he entered Jessica's apartment, an undeniable tension enveloped the atmosphere. She stood at the counter, a bright smile contrasting starkly with the questions brewing in his mind. They exchanged pleasantries, but the undercurrent of unspoken truths crackled between them. The minutes dragged, each second a hesitant step into the open abyss of honesty. "Alex, I'm glad you came," she began, her voice warm yet edged with something expectant. "I've been thinking about us too. The wedding, we can still make it everything we want, right?" Her words floated out like a lifebuoy into turbulent waters, but Alex felt anchored instead. He took a breath, his heart pounding. "Jessica, that's what I wanted to talk about. It's not about the wedding itself, it's what it represents, a life I'm not sure is meant for me." Her expression faltered, vulnerability slipping through the cracks of her composed exterior. "What are you saying?" "That I need to understand who I really am. I can't hide behind a facade anymore. I want us to explore what we've been avoiding," he replied, urgency tinging his voice. The silence that followed was suffocating. The walls of the apartment seemed to close in as they both laid bare the weight of their respective fears. "What if we fail? What if we don't like what we find?" Jessica finally murmured, vulnerability plastered across her features. Each question echoed Alex's internal struggle, forcing him to confront the fear of the unknown. But as they stood together, a flicker of recognition passed between them. They were standing on the precipice of potential change. "Maybe failure isn't the worst thing," he offered cautiously. "Maybe it's embracing the truth, whatever that may look like for us." An unspoken agreement arose between them, a hesitant bond formed in shared uncertainty. The conversation could not simply end here. It demanded deeper exploration of both their hearts and souls. Yet, amid this fragile connection, the lines between love and obligation blurred further. Alex's resolve rumbled beneath the surface. He could feel the stakes rising. What they discovered might either strengthen them or tear them apart. Tomorrow would not only bring more questions, but uncharted territories awaited, tainted with danger and promise. The commitment to explore each other's true selves beckoned, but could they summon the courage to confront unity amidst their personal upheavals? As they locked eyes, the urgency of their choice loomed. Each revelation promised a journey deeper into themselves, but where would that journey lead? Stepping into the light of their truths might either illuminate their path forward or plunge them into insurmountable darkness. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the room as Alex sat in the afterglow of their conversation. The air felt thick with unresolved questions, and he could still feel the weight of Jessica's gaze, searching for something he struggled to articulate. Each fleeting moment replayed in his mind, her hopeful expressions contrasting starkly with the unease brewing inside him. He grabbed his phone, scrolling absent-mindedly through messages, until he landed on a thread with his brother, Dave. It was filled with mundane chatter, sports scores, jokes, and plans that felt increasingly distant. The last message was from a few days ago. "You seem off, man. You okay?" It struck him that he hadn't just been evasive with Jessica. He had woven a veil of silence around everyone in his life. A sudden wave of determination washed over him. What if this was not merely a confrontation with Jessica, but a reckoning with himself? This growing unrest, this confusion about identity, needed to be addressed more holistically. Simply unraveling his relationship with Jessica wasn't sufficient. It demanded a deeper reflection on all aspects of his life. Alex sighed, pushing himself off the couch. The gym hadn't been a part of his routine since the engagement distractions began, but physically engaging with the world had been a long-standing method for him to smooth over mental clutter. Resolved, he laced up his running shoes and stepped outside. The air was crisp, fresh with the hint of autumn. He found solace in the rhythm of his feet hitting the pavement, the repetitive motion allowing his thoughts to unfurl. As he sprinted through neighborhood streets, the act of running became cathartic. Each inhale of cold air invigorated him, as he began to dissect his thoughts. What truly mattered to him? What did his life look like without the expectations that had settled on his shoulders like the weight of a damp blanket? The more he ran, the clearer these thoughts became. He realized that genuine self-discovery essentially came not from detachment, but from re-engaging with what he had sidelined. Was it ambition that he had surrendered? Back when he was pursuing art, each brushstroke had represented hope potential realized. Professional success had once felt natural, but somewhere in the shuffle of life, and particularly the engagement, that spark had dimmed. Panting as he rounded the corner back to his apartment, inspiration struck. He recalled a portfolio he'd left untouched, layers of creativity buried beneath mundane obligations. Flushing with excitement at the thought, he envisioned pouring himself into his artwork once more, allowing it to serve as an exploration of both his passion and identity. As he approached his front door, clarity sparked his resolve. He could propose to Jessica a plan not of elimination but of elevation. What if they both took time to unfurl their identities apart, reshaping the narrative they had crafted together? Instead of progressing toward the altar while half-heartedly holding their breaths, they could step back and breathe freely, exploring individually while still being an emotional support for one another. This realization sent a jolt of energy through him. Stepping out of the rigidity of obligation freed him, allowing space for genuine attraction to unfold. His artwork could be the canvas of his reclamation, a journey through paintbrush and color that may later connect with Jessica's own explorations. Yet, as promising as this revelation felt, an unsettling doubt lingered. Jessica may not be as receptive to this idea. Would she feel abandoned in her time of need, or would she see the value in their parallel journeys? He had to be prepared for the possibilities of rejection or resistance. Would the commitment to examine their inner selves truly serve as a unifying catalyst, or simply drive a wedge deeper into their bond? The door swung open, and the weight of the next conversation loomed once more. Alex's heart beat a little faster, his mind racing with projections of the future. There was no clearer invitation than the one Claudia sent vibrating through his soul, to embrace the unknown, ready to face the truth of who they both were. As he settled back into the unyielding silence of his apartment, Alex prepared himself to navigate the intricate landscape of their discussion. Would they both emerge stronger through this courageous exploration, or was the impending truth going to shatter what was left? He inhaled deeply, knowing that the next conversation would be an unveiling. The moment of truth felt relentlessly near. The tension hung palpably in the air as Alex settled into the worn armchair in his apartment, the fabric soft against his skin but heavy with the weight of impending decisions. He stared blankly at the walls, now a muted shade of beige that mirrored the confusion swirling in his mind. The artistry of his past felt distant, almost like a dream he was desperately trying to recall. He needed to gather his thoughts, but with each passing second, the anxiety about the conversation with Jessica gnawed at him. It was time to confront the uncertainty head-on. No more avoidance. The act of assembling the fragments of his artistic self into a coherent vision would take time, but his recent epiphany had ignited something deep within him. Drawing upon the chaos swirling in his mind could lead to an explosion of creativity. He wanted to paint, to articulate in colors what words struggled to convey. As he pulled out the untouched portfolio, the dust coating its surface symbolized layers of his own neglect. He began flipping through the pages, each work telling a story of who he once was, a passionate artist, vibrant and unafraid. Memories of late nights spent lost in creation flooded back, and his heart raced with both excitement and sorrow. Years of doubts and distractions had dulled that spark. The realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. Every brushstroke had awaited his presence, each blank canvas a promise of potential, full of dreams yet to be realized. If he could revive this passion, he could better understand himself, his core values, before discussing the future with Jessica. Sitting in that armchair, he mentally committed to more than a mere proposal. He was on the brink of an evolution that might allow him to be truly present, both for himself and in his relationship. He picked up a paintbrush, allowing the smooth wooden handle to rest against his palm. The motion felt foreign yet revitalizing. What if his first step was creating a piece that reflected not just his emotions but his hopes for their relationship? Conceptualizing an artwork that visually expressed this journey could solidify his resolve. A canvas, he mused. It could serve as both a sanctuary and a battleground where he confronted the fear of abandonment, the desire for support, and the hope of personal growth. As the first strokes of paint glided against the fabric, vibrant swirls of color began to echo the tumult of his heart. But the emotions were not just swirling colors. They began to form images of a blossoming flower amidst the turbulent storm. This was not merely a canvas. It was an embodiment of his struggle and inspiration, a representation of the change he yearned for. He could feel the rising strength within himself, bolstered by the work he was creating. Yet alongside this drive, the doubts returned. What if Jessica didn't understand? Would she see his art as a retreat or a means of liberation? The fear that his self-exploration might alienate her was disquieting. In the very act of reclaiming his identity, was he risking the bond they shared? The strokes became faster, more intense as he grappled with these questions. Each stroke was a plea for clarity, for understanding, and for a renewed commitment to one another. Could they learn to support their individual journeys without losing sight of the love that had brought them together? Hours passed as he immersed himself, losing track of time in a dance with color and memory. Dusk crept in, the daylight replaced by the dim glow of his desk lamp, illuminating the masterpiece that was gradually unfolding. With a sigh, Alex stepped back to survey his work, a tangled yet beautiful chaos that mirrored his feelings. A wave of calm washed over him, but moments later the doubt returned, sharper than before. As he headed for the door with the painting still fresh in his mind, every thought centered on their conversation to come swept through him. Would this path lead to liberation, or would it cleave their connection? Would he relinquish the fear of vulnerability for the hope of a renewed identity? With determination fueling him, he took a shaky breath. The time had come. He had to let his heart lead and allow Jessica's response to guide the next chapter in their unfolding narrative. There was no turning back now. As he opened the door, ready to confront both her and his truth, he wondered if their love could withstand the scrutiny of both self and partnership, delicate yet resilient like the paint on his canvas. The moment of truth awaited them both. Alex stood in the warmth of his simple studio apartment, the painting lingering behind him, a visible representation of his introspection and resolve. The sunlight filtering through the window illuminated the chaotic strokes of vibrant colors, capturing a blend of tumult and hope. Each brushstroke echoed the journey he had embarked on alone. Now, he was ready to share that journey, to unfold his truths to Jessica, just as the canvas had revealed his dormant creativity. The conversation with Jessica was no longer a daunting confrontation for him. Instead, it felt like a necessary unveiling, a moment of shared vulnerability that could strengthen their bond or end an era of misunderstanding. The air crackled with a mix of anticipation and nostalgia. He wanted to embrace the uncertainty of what lay ahead. As he stepped into Jessica's apartment that evening, he was met by the inviting sense of a home-cooked meal, a symbol of comfort amidst the turmoil they faced. Yet the tension hung beneath the surface like an unresolved chord. Jessica turned from the stove, her expression revealing a mix of warmth and apprehension. She wore an apron, a visual reminder of who she was known to be: a nurturer, a planner, an architect of their ideal future. But beneath that familiar facade lay layers of fear and expectation, just as deep as his own. "Alex," she greeted, her voice soft yet edged with uncertainty. "I'm really glad you're here." "Thanks, Jess," he replied, his palms clammy but resolute. "There's something I want to talk about." The weighty words hovered between them, ripe with consequence. "Me too," she said, her eyes searching his, reflecting a maelstrom of emotions. "I've been thinking a lot about our relationship, and what we've been running toward." The invitation to delve deeper into the shared reality they both faced gave him the courage he needed. Taking a seat at the dining table, he grasped the moment. "I've come to realize that I've been living under a facade for too long. The wedding, the life we planned, it felt like a mask." He took a breath, steadying himself. "I want to redefine our relationship, but in a way that honors both of us, not just the expectations of others." Jessica's expression softened as she absorbed his words. Her gaze dropped, her fingers nervously fidgeting with the fabric of her apron. "I've felt that too," she admitted. "The pressure, it's suffocating. I've been trying to keep everything together, but I'm struggling with what we want, if that even aligns." With every shared sentiment, Alex felt the weight lift slightly. This was progress. What if we took time for ourselves? To explore what we truly want without the cloud of expectation? "I want to venture back to what makes us feel alive, both individually and as a couple." He watched her carefully, gauging her reaction. When she looked up, tears glistened in her eyes, not tears of despair, but a mixture of relief and uncertainty. "Alex, I feel the same way. I've been so consumed with the wedding that I haven't really thought about whether it's what I want, or just what everyone else thinks we should want." Here, amidst the backdrop of shared uncertainty, they began to weave threads of hope. This pivotal moment was not about the wedding. It was the exploration of their identities stripped away from the glamorous expectations of a lavish future, seeking genuine happiness that perhaps lay hidden within the chaos. Together, he emphasized, "Let us use this time to cultivate our individual selves while still being a support for each other. I want to reclaim the things that matter, like my art, and figure out how they fit into our lives." "I do like that," she said, her voice steadier now. "But what if we end up evolving in different directions?" "That's the risk I'm willing to take," he assured her, the sincerity in his words resonating between them. "I'd rather face that than build a life based solely on obligation and expectations." In that moment, an unspoken understanding crystallized. They were not only shedding layers of expectation, they were also carving paths towards self-discovery, igniting the flame that had flickered dimly for so long. "Let us take a step back from everything," Jessica agreed, a smile breaking through the uncertainty, "and see where life takes us. Alex, we owe it to ourselves to find out who we are. We are more than our plans." As they made that promise to each other, profound relief washed over Alex. This wasn't just a decision about a wedding, it was a conscious commitment to vulnerability, growth, and authentic connection. In the weeks that followed, both Alex and Jessica dedicated time to individual pursuits, exploring passions that had dimmed under the weight of expectation. For Alex, the paintbrush became not just a tool but a means of catharsis, igniting long-buried dreams with every stroke. He found solace in his creativity, and with it, a resurgence of confidence and fulfillment. As for Jessica, she embraced opportunities in her own career, reconnecting with her ambitions for the first time in years. Together, they learned to support each other as they unfurled their new identities, laying the groundwork for a relationship built on authenticity rather than appearances. The foundation of their love blossomed into something genuine and reassuring. They found joy in their separate journeys while establishing connection and understanding, creating a powerful affirmation of love that neither had anticipated. One evening, they found themselves back at the apartment, the dinner table filled with laughter and warmth, every ounce of tension faded into a memory. Alex couldn't help but reflect on how his life had shifted dramatically. He had conquered fear, embraced his creativity, and demonstrated a newfound clarity in his identity. The societal expectations that once ruled him were vanquished. In the end, true personal achievement was never measured by how many trophies or accolades adorned his shelves. It was the quiet, profound recognition of who he had become amidst the symphony of uncertainty and transformation. His heart beat with the steady rhythm of fulfillment, driven not by a quest for perfection, but by the courage to embrace authenticity, life, and love in its purest form. You need to subscribe now to witness more exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending. Your thoughts matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share these meaningful journeys.